of the height changes between the dwarf and the non-dwarf. If you can use that figure, you'll find that it comes out pretty close most of the time. If you picked this and said, this is the scale for dwarfs, and non-dwarfs can be, and then pick a number, 4, 5, or 6, if you want to go with Julie. The non-dwarf is the dwarf plus whatever the number is. I'll call it 6 for the sake of argument, because that's what we're using with Julie. If you set the scale for a dwarf and then say that non-dwarfs can be 6 inches taller, up to 6 inches taller, then it works. But you can see from this that if you leave it the way it is now, with both types caught in this little narrow bind right here, what works for one does not work for the other in both directions. And I really believe that this needs to be fixed. And Margaret Rollins asked me specifically to include this information in the tape because she thought it was thought-provoking. I'm hoping that it's more than thought-provoking. I hope that it's action-provoking. Thank you very much. Since we were talking about history, I thought you might be interested in seeing some of the photographs of the early Dexters that were exported from the United States and Canada into Australia back around 1990. So I'm going to start you off with a very early American breeder, Mabel Ingalls, and she was the granddaughter of J.P. Morgan of American Railroad and banking fame. And they had very early imported animals right from the 1914 imports. Plus, she was also responsible for bringing all of the Parndon animals in the beginning. Unfortunately, her early photographs are not identified. So, I have no idea who any of these animals are. I took the photographs probably, I think it was 1988. And at that time, no one at the farm could tell me who was who. So all you can do is just look at them and say, nice animals. But going on from there, these rest of these photographs now are taken at Clovebrook, which was the farm that Mrs. Ingalls had. That was the granddaughter. And they were current at that time in 1988. The next set of pictures are from Kathy Landry's Serene farm, and this is Larkspur and Tansy and Clove. I think I only have the two here. Clove is the dun. These pictures were taken at Picket Fence Farm, which is the American Quarantine Center. Larkspur and Tansy were both 15 months, and Clove was 10 months at that time. There was a fourth animal, Sage, but I don't have a photograph of her. The next herd that you see here is the Colorado herd of Mark Davidson, Delaware. This is where Colorado Sheila came from. Mark has run a closed herd for 50 years now, and he started out with Atlantic animals and some of the early American ones. So his is quite an old established herd, and the only one you have in Australia from that is Colorado Sheila, and I believe she's still alive, and I don't think she's breeding anymore, but she's still out there, which is kind of neat. Sheila would be 22 this year, I believe. The next set of photographs are not of Daphne and Gentiane Bod de la Ribe, but photographs that Paul Bod sent me, just showing generally his cows and his bull. He's actually a Swiss. He's very proud of the Swiss bells on his cows, and he was the manager of a very posh country club in Florida. This next set of photographs, then, is from the Windswept farm of the Harringtons in Pennsylvania, and they sent Marie and May over to Australia. I don't have their pictures specifically, but again, these are pictures of what the herd looks like to give you an idea of what the animals would be. This next set is from George Branson's farm in Texas. He was Whispering Pines. He sent Abby and Miracle, and this will give you an idea of the rest of the animals in his herd. Now I'm going to take you to the quarantine center in Melbourne. This was right at the end of the quarantine, just before the 30 days were over. And the ones that we have here first are Doris Crow's Cranworth animals, which are Purewood magic. And there's Cranworth Trudy, who's the dun, and Cranworth Vanessa. Trudy was 5 when these pictures were taken. Vanessa was 4. The calf is Bradner Hilltop Coco, and he was 8 months old at this time. The next set of pictures here in the quarantine center, Thomas's Magic Music, and she was 16 months old at this time. And the other one is Thomas's Music Red Blush. She was also 16 months old, and that's her month-old calf at foot. This next group of photographs show Francis Kellogg's Bedford herd. Those were based on Lady Loder's Grinstead animals and some Atlantic animals from Ann Tanner. In fact, Lady Loder named the bull she sent over Ambassador after Mr. Kellogg, who was the United Nations ambassador to Iran. Bedford Moss Rose, Bedford Oleander, and Bedford Tudor Rose. This is one of Moss's daughters. Her name is Rose Gay. And here's a photograph of Rose Gay at 19 with her 17th calf. And here's another picture of her just showing the udder. Not bad for a 19-year-old cow. Beautiful suspension and very nice teat shape. She came just after Primrose. Primrose was exported to Roman Shadler in Australia. The calf with Primrose is Philander, and I have another picture of Philander as a mature bull. He was collected in Australia, and I think there's probably quite a lot of offspring of his there. And he's also the person who imported Bedford Romark Rambler, who's one of your first AI bulls there after the initial imports first started. This next group of photographs come from the June Goose herd, Glencara, and she purchased the knotting animals from Kathy Lovejoy, and I have photographs here generally of the herd. I also have pictures of the 2 knotting cows themselves. One is Jerush, and the other is Little Ladydale. This next set, I actually don't have a photograph of Hillside, Virginia, who was exported to Australia from Alan Nelson's herd of the Hillside, but I do have pictures of her sire and dam. This is Tyee, and the dam is Peerless Lady. Now, Peerless is probably the oldest extant herd in the United States. It's still going, but the owners no longer register. And last but not least, I thought you might like to see an early photograph of Saturn of Notting. He's 2 here. He's at Lyndhurst in Hampshire at the Collection Center. And I got right down and hunkered down and shot up at him to make him look more impressive. So for those of you that look at numbers, he is not 140 centimeters tall. And this is the last of the pictures here. And I just thought that you might like to see some of the animals that made up your national herd and to give you an idea of what they looked like when they got to Australia. And now you can go outside and look at your own herds and see the wonderful things that you've done with the genetics that you started with and where you've taken them. Thanks very much.